Hello, good evening, and welcome to the Majority Podcast. My name is Mark Devlin, and I'm here with co-hosts Niall, Fraser, and David Griffiths, whom we're going to have an hour of Scotland's number one anti-nationalist show. Now, what are we going to be talking about tonight, guys?
Tonight I'll be asking, is Sturgeon managing Scotland's collapse?
And tonight I will be talking about Ruth Davidson's dislike of Johnson. Fanar.
Very, very good. And I'll be giving updates on Majority's Billboard campaign and our recent articles in the National.
And of course, we will have Zoomer of the Week.
Zoomer of the Week. All right, we'll be back in just a moment. Yeah, well, welcome back to Scotland's number one anti-nationalist podcast. As usual, we start the show by giving a shout out to our donors who made this podcast possible. Thank you all for your ongoing support. If you would like to continue supporting us, please do go to our website and donate. And I'll be showing the website shortly with a few options for your donations. I'd also like to thank UK Union Voice and United Against Separation, both Facebook pages, who very kindly let the podcast be broadcast on their pages. So if you're coming from one of those pages, please do say hello to us.
And remember, you can also watch on Twitter and on YouTube, from where you can subscribe to The Majority.
And please don't forget to like, share, comment, subscribe, knock your neighbour's door, make sure they're watching it. Every Sunday at Thursday, supercharge it by giving us a like and a share. And it is super important that we do this prior to the May election to have the most impact as possible. I see the comments are filtering in. Beautiful. Thank you.
That's all great stuff. Okay, so we'll be back in a sec. I want to give you an update on our billboard campaign. First of all, fundraising being a great success. We have raised £3,600 from donors. This is the campaign here. And if you would like to go and donate to the campaign, you can go to our website and you can see up at the top, you might not be able to see because of this thing. Hold on a second. Just get rid of that there. Up at the top, it says 2022 Billboard Campaign. You see the mouse. Anyway, and click that and you can still make a donation. We intend to have the billboards up and running next week, but we did get a bit of a delay because we'd hoped to have them up and running this week. But just at the moment, we actually went to see them on the actual billboards screens. The company called us and said that they wouldn't accept the ads, and we were like, "Oh, that's a bit odd. Why is that?" And because you accepted them last year, and they said that they changed the rules so they wouldn't allow any discussion, any ads that criticised other parties.
So that's bizarre to me because, we all remember probably the most effective billboard campaign in recent political history, which was in 1979. The Conservatives had a picture of a lengthy queue, obviously a dole queue, with the slogan, "Labour isn't working." What was that if it's not criticism of another party? It's odd.
Yeah.
Very odd.
Well, I think it's certainly as an activist group, what we're trying to do is we're trying to criticise the SNP, Greens, Alba, whatever it is, any nationalist party. And it does... It's a strange rule they have. We actually called up another company and they said the same thing. And we tried to, we even rearranged, we changed the slogan and they still wouldn't accept it. Now, it's up to these companies, I suppose, to choose what they put on. But thankfully, we have had support of another company and that we hope to have the billboards up next week. So, still a little bit of time.
So there's an extra week or so to get your donations in.
So
You still got
that is
an extra few days to get the donations in, so if you want to, it'll probably get us up for another week or so, Mark, something like that, if we get some more money.
Yeah, and still, while the billboards are up, you can still donate. There's still some time. The digital billboards, they can go up at short notice. And also, we can use the money for other things. For example, we can divert, once the billboard campaign's finished, we can put it into youth outreach fund, some other things that we're working on as well. So anything that any person donates at any time goes towards helping the majority. I'll just show the website again. The website up the top, 2020 billboard campaign, and that's how you go.
Okay.
David, what else? So tell us about the next thing.
Well, yes. Interestingly, this week the majority was subjected to a fake news attack by the National, Scotland's leading pro SNP newspaper. I use that term very loosely. So the story was that a few weeks ago we had a meetup of the majority in Glasgow, and we invited two local councillors, two Glasgow councillors, Ewan Blockley of the Conservatives and Malcolm Cunning of Labour, and both attended and spoke out on what they would do for Glasgow as local councillors if elected. Now, this was seized upon and misrepresented wholly by the National. And in addition, senior SNP figures, Susan Aitken being one, got on board on social media, and they called it evidence of a pact between Labour and the Conservatives, and a very lurid headline appeared.
Here we go. We have it here now. Unfortunately, I had to go to the store
across a bit.
and buy this,
Oh,
but
You actually had to buy it. Oh,
I know I had to buy it.
Oh,
Actually, I
my
should have
God.
stolen it, I suppose. An unholy alliance. There we are.
Jesus.
A picture of Malcolm and Ewan down there,
Ewan.
and Tommy Shepherd, who just making up stuff as he goes along. So
Exactly.
that's us in the paper. Unfortunately, we didn't get a paper of Mary, myself, or any other majority folks inside, which I always like to see a picture.
Absolutely. But of course, I mean, just to say, the allegation they made is complete rubbish, because both parties have repeatedly made it clear there will be no pacts before or after next month's elections. At the meeting, these guys were guests. They just spoke and they made it clear in their speeches there would be no pact. So it's just a nothing story. And what it shows, though, is that the SNP clearly fears a resurgent Labour, because what they tried to do with the story is to smear Labour by saying, you see, we told you, they're making pacts with the Tories. They're just red Tories. You can't vote for them. It's just absolutely crazy stuff. And not only that, of course, because the National likes to throw around complete invective, they labelled the majority undemocratic, ultra-nationalist. What else was it?
No, we're not ultra-nationalists.
No, I don't think it was the National.
Sorry, ultra-unionist, British nationalist. I do apologize.
Yes, well, we've got this. That was taken up by Susan Aitken. You see this here. I was always sceptical about Labour claims they wouldn't do deals with the Tories, given their record, but deals with not only the Tories, but this anti-democratic, misogynist extremism group too. That's a clear rejection of the progressive politics by Glasgow Labour. So all that says to me really is that they're scared. They're not scared of an alliance, actually. They're not scared of that at all. That's just chum, I suppose.
So welcome to the Extremist podcast, folks.
Exactly.
This is outrageous that we're being branded extremists for listening to two councillors. I just can't believe it. And this is Susan Aitken, the head of Glasgow Council, coming after us like this. Misogynistic. What's misogynistic? Anti-democratic, misogynistic extremist group.
Yeah, so if you don't like any of that, you can turn off. But if you do like that kind of stuff, then please stay tuned.
Exactly.
For more anti-democratic nonsense. Now the thing is, we're upholding the result of the largest democratic vote in Scottish history is actually the definition of democracy. And as I said a minute ago, and David said as well, it shows that they have a fear. They've got the fear of Labour resurgence, so they're going to use anything to say about Labour. Labour's going to do a deal, and they're going to do whatever it is. And also, even the Tories are doing the same thing to some extent. They're saying that there's going to be a deal between the SNP and Labour. Now, Labour have made it very clear, and I don't have the thing here, that there's not going to be any alliances after the local elections. And I think there shouldn't be any alliances, really. Parties should just work for their own thing. And, we've had enough of this trying to do alliances, tactical voting, all kinds of schemes and scams and stuff like that. A lot of it's just born out of defeatism. I think that you can't win otherwise. So let's just, maybe except
defeat them.
except that we can actually, have each party can do its best and move on from there.
Yeah,
I don't mind. I want to say as well, I don't mind.
I thought it was a horrible thing to say for the leader of the Scottish, the Glasgow Council. Absolutely outrageous, branding us extremists. And to me, it felt more like projection than anything else. Ultra nationalists? No, I don't think so.
Yeah, quite.
No, I certainly
well,
don't think so.
we're not ultra union.
Anti-democratic? Don't think so.
But that's what they try and do, isn't it? It's the thing, At some level you can fight it, and at another level you just go, sticks and stones,
Exactly.
Stuff like that. And you think, look, we know what we're doing. Our supporters know what we're doing. We are fighting against their toxic nationalism, and if they want to call us nationalists, or want to call us whatever it is, we know that's not the case. So when we keep putting our case across, and we'll see what we're doing. As for the national, if we can, let me see where we got here now. Oh, of course, it gives us an opportunity to say, please have a look at our petition, which already has signatures from 5,192 people who reject the Nationals' hate. Again, if you want to go to this, you can go to change.org, or you can go to our website, where I've just put up a link again on the top. Stop the Nationals anti-English hate. So with any luck, we'll soon have more people on a petition than our actual subscribers to the newspaper.
Fantastic.
I don't even call it a newspaper. And our campaign against the National will continue and will ramp up after the elections. So be warned.
Jolly good.
That should be quite good. All right. Okay, so coming up, David's going to be talking about Ruth Davidson, and Niall's going to be asking a question. Is Sturgeon, what is it? What is she doing?
Managing our collapse.
Okay, all right. Okay, we'll be back in a second.
Oh, okay. Good evening, everyone. So this week I'm posing a question to you, the viewers, and Mark and David. So, is Sturgeon simply managing the collapse of Scotland? Yeah. So, let's go through what we know. The NHS in Scotland is in such a state of disrepair; it's close to collapse or in terminal decline. So she's presiding over the Scottish NHS when things couldn't get any worse. And let's be clear on this, it was irreparably damaged prior to the pandemic, because they're, of course, going to use the COVID excuse. I mean, COVID hasn't helped it, it's accelerated the downfall, but we once had a great service here in Scotland, and now it's abysmal. And if you've got any stories, please let us know in the comments, and we've got this BBC article here. The waiting times worst on record. Think about that. Worst on record. Okay? And let us not forget that it was just months ago that a Glaswegian man by the name of Gerard Brown died having waited 40 hours for an ambulance to show up. There's no words to describe. 40 hours, very long, Mark. Very long. If you're having a heart attack or a stroke, 40 hours is clearly it's furlongs away from where it needs to be. Furlongs. And ultimately, we've still not seen any resignations here. And ultimately, the failure is leading to the deaths of Scots. This is where I'm going with this. It's unacceptable. The Scottish NHS is only the one service on the road to ruination as well. Under the auspices of the SNP administration, we've got, and before anybody accuses me of being a slight on the doctors, the nurses, I love all the doctors, the nurses, supporters. It's purely about the mismanagement of the NHS. Absolutely. So have you got any stories about the NHS, gents?
Well, the only one I have is that I'm, as you know, I have a long-term medical condition. I've been back living in Scotland for over a year now, but I still travelled into Manchester for appointments and clinics, and I only see other patients there who have additionally travelled from Scotland. And the last time, or either time before, I can't forget, I spoke to a lady from Oban who had driven down at 4 a.m. that day for what was cancer treatment, which just isn't available in Scotland. So the thought of people living in the Highlands having to travel to Manchester for cancer treatment, I mean, really, guys, there's something far wrong if that's the case.
It's a horrible situation. So,
Yeah.
like I
Yes,
said, it's
we have,
on you go.
I think, a good comment here from Lisa Richardson. Sorry, it's she says her sister was in 19 hours in a trolley in Edinburgh Infirmary in 2017, long before COVID.
And that's just on a trolley and probably a corridor somewhere, just left.
Yeah.
So we've also got a nationalised ferry yard, a shipyard in Scotland, Ferguson Marine. It hasn't produced a single functioning ferry, despite hundreds of millions of pounds. It's outrageous. I mean, despite Sturgeon herself launching a ship, inoperable.
5 years ago, no, she
What?
launched that ship. 5 years ago, she launched it.
5 years ago, and it's still, it's no seaworthy. It's not in the high seas. And you know the situation. This is crazy. If you live on the Scotland's island communities, you know that situation could become really perilous really quickly. You know, with food shortages, all that stuff. So it's an absolute disservice to those Scots who live on the islands. And I can't imagine any of them are going to be voting SNP.
You say that the thing is about, is she managing decline? That means it sounds like you think that, is it incompetence or is it deliberate? This is the question, I guess, that you're asking, right? Is that, I mean, I think there's a lot of incompetence because there is, how would you say it? When your focus is on a fantasy referendum, it's not on management, right? And it goes through the whole system. This is why, different forms of government work in different ways. If you get certain aspects of, say, communism works in a certain way and capitalism works in a certain way and so on, and nationalism works in a certain way as well. And that means that people are always, everyone involved in it prioritizes this fantasy idea of the nation be above everything else. So if you're elected into the party, that's the most important thing, not your competence at a skill. If you could be, if you're a minister in the Scottish government, your competence isn't in the actual thing itself that you're supposed to be,
of course,
be a minister for. It's whether you can support Nicola Sturgeon's aim of having a fantasy referendum. So everything in the whole society becomes like that, and that means that loyalty to a party or to an idea is higher than basic competence. So you can never get competence, whereas, for example, capitalism you might expect, or a meritocracy, for example, is generally the idea is that you want the best people in charge, and you hire based on who's the best.
So well, thanks for your input, Mark. Really good. So it's not only the NHS, it's not only the ferries. Our education system is under severe threat of entire collapse, if not a collapse entirely, but a collapse in standards, right? So Scotland used to be world renowned for its exceptionally high standards in education, always near the top in the global rankings, but now we're probably somewhere between Vietnam and the Sudan. It's absolutely rank rotten. And there's a very, 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 very simple fix to this, to the continually falling education standards. And this is a cheap and cheerful method. You might like this, Mark. You might like this, David.
Okay.
How about we roll back to a previous version of the curriculum?
Well, I wouldn't be opposed to that at all. I think taught in schools these days is certainly not what's going to equip Scotland's young children to go and succeed in the certainly not in the private sector anyway. Maybe they're just hoping to churn out lots of ready-made pre-packed SNP MPs of the future. Maybe that's the idea of the education system, because whatever they're teaching them, it's certainly not the 3 R's or English and maths. I mean, I don't know what enough they're being taught.
Reading, writing, and rimming. Is that the 3 R's?
Oh God!
Jesus.
Oh my goodness!
Oh no!
Well, there certainly are some sex issues in the thing. I think the thing is that it's general. We had the first part is it incompetence. Second part, is it deliberate, right? Yeah. And I think you talk to SNP people on social media or in real life, and they're like, right, well, they don't care. they actually, they don't care in a way that these things are going down as long as this golden carrot of independence is put in front of them. And you have to say at a certain point, when are you actually going to care? And you've been talking to people at the moment. I was talking to a guy today, and he's like, "Oh, keep that idea that they can still have a referendum going. Give them some conditions for a referendum, or give them some hope." I'm like, why would you give them hope? The whole thing is to get rid of hope, and then the people can look around and say, "Well, there's no hope of a referendum," and then look around and look at the wreckage around them and say, "Well, oh wait a minute, while I was thinking about this referendum, or while someone was pulling my strings to think about this referendum, now I didn't realise that this place was in a mess." And but at the moment, a lot of them want to be kings of the ashes. They don't care how much destruction is going around them, as long as there's a slim chance that they'll get that referendum. They can sit on top of the pile of rubble and say, "We got what we wanted.
It's mine. This rubble's mine."
Right, exactly. This is the kings of the ashes is the thing. So can we have to say, no, this isn't going to happen. This is why appeasement is so dangerous. But I think this thing is that this decline happens because the people. I think certainly the politicians are cynically, holding out that possibility of a second referendum and for power and money. But people they'll ignore all this because there's something in it for them, and we have to remove that something.
So Anne Smith makes a good point via Facebook. Scotland hasn't got the money to go it alone. Sorry. So this segues perfectly into my next segment of the collapse, which is another worrying sign of the collapse to me is the level of households in Scotland receiving benefits. Okay, so there is. I have got supporting documents here. So the Gov document: 2.8 million people in Scotland receive some form of social security benefit or tax credit, with a total population estimated to be 5.46 million, which means that more than 50% of Scots are in receipt of benefits, right? So do you think this is a very, very scary fact? No?
Well,
I think it's terrifying.
It is terrifying to me, yeah.
How on earth?
Well, start with Mark, sorry.
So it's the same kind of thing. I mean, it's there. There's no opportunity. What happens when there's no inward investment? People are going, well, why would I invest in Scotland for jobs when there's going to be a hard border? Or I see these people going, why would I even want to live in Scotland when I'm seeing anti-English sentiment, rising all the time? These people don't want us, so why would I put my business there? That's like it's almost like I'll only put something there if I really have to, and if I don't, I'll put it somewhere else. So these opportunities are, investment opportunities are declining all the time. So what that leaves is people on benefits. Now, I think benefits have their place. There's a
absolutely they have their place. Absolutely, I'm not arguing that.
There is, a strategy to have people dependent on the government all the time. Okay, we'll give you freebies, we'll give you, free bikes, we'll give you free stuff, and they get, especially young people, get into this culture that everything's for free. And as Maggie said, it's socialism is fine, or this type of giving these freebies is fine until you run out of someone else's money.
I know. So I mean, over 50% of Scots are on benefits, right? And obviously, to me, it's a very scary fact. But we desperately need to bring this number down. We can't have it increase. We don't want half the population wholly reliant on the government. It might not be wholly reliant, I'll give it that, but it's not right. With all this in mind, the SNP administration still prefer sending large contracts abroad.
Yes.
Yeah, and I mean, they pissed off the largest market as well. They had this whole thing going on with Trump. Now, irrespective of your thoughts on Trump as a president, the fact of pissing off the president of the richest country in the world, it could have gone. Imagine it was going the other way, and he was out there saying, "I love Scotland. It's so great. You have to put your businesses there." All this time, he could have done that.
Sure.
Just like that, straight up. And all the Americans were like, "Oh, this is really great." And we're going to go over there. I'm going to play golf, and he's got his golf course, and we've got all these facilities and stuff like that. Instead, they ran him out of town.
Trump invested in Scotland. He's got
did.
what, 2 golf courses, David? He's got one.
Yep. One in Ayrshire, one up in Inverness. That's right, or
Yes,
Aberdeen, whatever it is. Yep.
both world class.
I mean, that's just a simple example of what, how the approach could be different. I mean, if I was in charge, right, I'd be like, going to meet Elon Musk. Elon, come on, put your factory in Scotland.
Give us some Starlink.
You know,
we
give some
will
batteries
test your
or give us
Starlink
something.
for you.
Right? Yeah, exactly. Give us something. Right? We can just, I mean, just actually going out, go to Jeff Bezos. Well, they've got Amazon facilities and so, but not any headquarters.
I think we've got the largest fulfillment centre in Europe, Mark.
Right. But you know, that's a functional thing, right? Yeah. It has to do that. But there's nothing extra. Right. So you can't, there used to be in the old days, there was Scottish Enterprise was all around the world. I'm not sure it was called Scottish Enterprise, Scottish International Development or something.
Right.
And they were all around the world trying to pull in people for, for Silicon Glen and all this type of stuff. There's nothing like that going on anymore. No,
it's all gone.
It's really no good. And that, of course, that filters through into there's no opportunities for young people to say, right, well, I'm going to go and work in this particular industry. I mean, there is some.
I'm going to go find work abroad because that's where the work seems to be abroad. It's not going to be in Scotland. We desperately need to break the impasse so we can bring investment in. You're right, David. You really are, Mark. Sorry, and just for the cherry on top of this cake, right? The failure cake. The SNP want more power, more control. They want to be able to run things themselves, totally autonomous. What a colossal joke. And that's why I call them an SNP comedy club. They don't know what they're doing. They're flying by the seat of their pants, and they're ruining almost every single industry that we have through ineptitude or malice. I mean, you can decide if you want to vote in the chat.
Well, I mean, there's a school of thought that they're really just trying to keep the people of Scotland stupid and dependent on the government. They'll obediently keep voting SNP. It's very, very hard to disprove that, I'm afraid.
I've got too much faith in the Scottish people for that. I really do.
Sure. I think that's what the SNP are trying, though. No, I hope it doesn't work. You do wonder, and I'm intrigued to wonder how many additional votes and additional seats the SNP will win in 2 weeks' time after this litany of total failure. If, as its opinion polls suggest, the SNP does make further gains, what will that tell us exactly about their target audience? I mean, let's rather than deal with conjecture, let's just wait and see whether it happens and then decide then. But my goodness, I am fearful, I have to say.
Yeah.
Well, there's so much conflicting information out there. We have we talked to our councillors at our meetup, and they were very positive about the messages that were on the street. But they, of course, they're not going to say, I was chased down the street, by an angry nationalist. They're not going to say that. They're going to say, of course, everyone we met was really good. But Malcolm Cunning did say he met 2,000 people, and and he thinks it's very positive for Labour's chances. Who knows? We'll see soon enough. I mean, you have to wonder. A litany of scandals, daily scandals, everything going on all the time, and will people notice? And can we break through? And I think that's going to be the question. I think they may suffer, but who knows at the moment.
Well, we shall see. Yep,
they deserve to suffer.
They do indeed.
That's for certain.
Incompetence, malice, cynicism. These are all these factors at play. It's arrogance. Say Sarah Jane Davidson, ineptitude, arrogance. I mean, that's the thing. It's so smug in their belief that they're doing the right thing.
No doubt.
We might come to that a little bit later. Got a lot of good comments coming in, so please keep them going.
A lot of amazing comments coming in.
It's very good. We try and highlight as many as we can. So Mary's in the back there. She's doing all that. Coming up, we are David doesn't like Ruth Davidson all that much, so I wonder why. And then I think we are going to, due to time, we're going to go straight into Zoomer of the Week. So first, we'll be back just in just a second.
So,
right, David,
indeed, Ruth Davidson hit the headlines this week. Ruth or Baroness Davidson, London Links, to use her full title. spoke out fearlessly to criticise the shamed party leader and national leader who has been caught once again breaking COVID regulations. Unfortunately, the national leader Ruth criticised wasn't Nicola Sturgeon. Instead, it was Boris Johnson. Now, Sturgeon, as I'm sure we all know, was caught on video in a barber's shop, clowning around with staff and customers without wearing a face mask. So she was in clear breach of her own insisted face mask regulations. Sadly, though, Ruth couldn't find it in herself to comment on Sturgeon's latest COVID faux pas. Instead, she took the opportunity to call yet again for the resignation of Boris Johnson, citing his conduct in what has been termed Partygate. Now, bear in mind that we are 2 weeks away from UK-wide local elections. Ruth Davidson is now in the House of Lords in London. Bear in mind also that Ruth Davidson is the former Scottish Conservative Party leader. She was, in fact, the last one because she stood in for Jackson Carlow when he stood down. And why, you have to ask yourself, why would the last leader of the Scottish Conservatives elect at this stage to speak out, calling for the resignation of the Conservative Prime Minister for breaking COVID regulations, while ignoring yet another in what has become a very long line of COVID breaches by the leader of the Scottish Government, which is, let's not forget, is the party Ruth supposedly sat against in opposition less than a year ago. So in summary, my question to you guys is, why is it so important to Ruth Davidson that Boris Johnson loses his job, but why does she not care about Nicola Sturgeon losing her job for pretty much the same crimes?
Well, I've got a theory on this, just a theory, right?
Yep.
So I don't really know what there is to gain here for Ruth Davidson, right? If I'm honest, but if I was to put my conspiracy hat on, Sturgeon merchandises hatred of Boris and converts it into votes at every opportunity. Her battle bus for the local elections in Scotland cites Boris. It's got Boris written on it. What's Boris got to do with the Scottish local elections? Absolutely nothing. But there he is, getting merchandised. We're using his name and hatred of the man to convert the hatred into votes. So if I was playing a long game, it's getting Boris out. And I think Boris is actually Nicola's best selling point. She
She's
cites him at every
point,
opportunity.
I mean, it works for her followers, but it's a bit like, beating the horse all the time. It's eventually it only goes so far. And I think it's red meat, of course, to her own supporters. But I don't know. I'm not sure if particularly floating voters are going to deal with that. Again, we talked about this a little bit last time. If you really don't like Boris, and you want to do something about it, why are you voting for the SNP? The SNP can't get a referendum. They can't get independence. They can't make a Tory-free country. So, but instead, you should be voting for, if you don't like Boris, you should be voting for Labour or Lib Dems or whoever, someone who can actually form a government. I'm not saying Lib Dems can form a government, but you know what I mean. So, yeah, it's a thing. I think a lot of this comes from this. I was reading this article in the Times. I'll show you this clip here.
Okay.
Funny. Anyway, I'll read out. Smart Conservative strategists in London and Edinburgh were relaxed about Davidson's unconcealed dislike of Johnson. They recognised the toxicity of his brand in Scotland and appreciated her desire to distance herself from him was the interest of the party's success in Scotland. And then when Douglas Ross became...
Go on, sorry, Marco.
No, you just go ahead. That's good.
Ruth Davidson's taking that stance from the House of Lords. I mean, why is she even talking about the Scottish elections if all she can talk about is the UK Prime Minister from the Lords, and she's been sent there, of course, by the very same Prime Minister whom she demanded.
I know, it's outrageous. It's just outrageous.
I mean, who's advising Ruth? You not someone say to her, listen, Ruth, show of yourself. Seriously,
there is that. But here's the next part of it. When Douglas Ross became leader of Scottish Tories in August 2020, it appeared he had learnt from Davidson's approach to Johnson. Colleagues pointed out that Ross had resigned, over Dominic Cummings, and the message from Tory spinners was unequivocal. Ross was no Johnson Tory. It's like it all comes from this idea of the branch office. They're so scared of being called the branch office that they will stand in opposition against the UK party, which is exactly what nationalists want. Right. What nationalists want is Ruth Davidson fighting with Boris Johnson and saying, yeah, this UK party is rubbish. And instead, it should be, yeah, we support this. It should be, we support the party, we support its aims and policies and goals. And we don't, you snipe, if you snipe her from the six sides, then you have to, maybe you should either shut up or leave the party. That's the thing. So this is the thing. They so scared of the Nationals calling them names that they do exactly what the Nationals want. Instead, they should be standing up and they should be saying, look, Brexit kills independence. A hard border with the EU kills independence. Even if you don't like Brexit, you must be able to understand that. Get that through your head and stop getting so butthurt about, about Brexit. Right.
It's
This
happened now.
Which you have to suspect is behind a lot of these attacks, because it's not a lot long ago that Douglas Ross similarly said, "Oh no, Ruth must step down. Boris must step down," backed by all of his colleagues, every single one of them. And then 4 weeks later, they all said, "Oh no, I've changed their minds. Boris shouldn't step down after all." So now you've just got his predecessor saying, "Oh no, she stayed in the Boris must go camp," and you just think. I saw Adam Tompkins saying, "Oh, the Conservatives are going to have a terrible campaign, are going to have terrible results because of their support for Boris." No, Adam. If anything, it's the reverse. It's because of their idiotic, babyish flip-flopping. Nobody likes to see a political party leader saying, "He loves me not." I mean, it's just ludicrous. I mean, you don't do that, guys. Anybody can tell you that. So,
I mean, there was a good opportunity. I would like to say this quite a bit. There was a good opportunity for Douglas Ross to keep his mouth shut.
Sure.
Right? He could have just shut up, not said anything. And he wouldn't have had to do flip flop, hokey cokey. I'm in, I'm out. I love him. I don't like him. It's like the guy with loving me daisies. I love.
Exactly. That's what
it's like.
Initially,
you're an idiot.
I did support Ross initially in doing this.
Because you felt it was principled,
because it was a principled approach. I was outraged as much as everyone else. Because they've imposed these rules and then just absolutely flaunted them. But in the same vein, Nicola Sturgeon's doing the exact same thing.
Yeah.
The exact same thing over and over again. And, I just... Who really cares about the mask and the barbers?
We're going to come to these restrictions as it comes in a later section. But this idea that we're always running and Davidson's like that. It's like she's always running, scared of the Nationalists and doing the thing that they want to do. It's like stand up to these people, if you see them supporting staying in the EU, do the opposite. That's it. Right. Straightforward. It's not that complicated. And absolutely don't go against your boss. Sorry.
For sure. I mean, anybody. We were talking about this earlier today. Some of the other guys who'd support the majority. Nobody likes someone who will speak out willingly against his or her boss, because you just think, well, they're backstabbing. They can't be trusted. They've got an ulterior motive. And just something to finish this topic, really. Yesterday, I'm sure most people know, we saw Nicola Sturgeon appearing on the daytime TV show Loose Women, in which she was questioned quite forcefully by, among others, and I kid you not here, Carol McGiffin, you may know, but Gloria Hunniford. Gloria Hunniford was questioning the First Minister. Now, it was quite a forceful line of questioning, so much so that since the show aired, Carol McGiffin has been termed rude, and her line of questioning has been called totally uncalled for. Now, you have to wonder, why does Nicola Sturgeon face more stringent questioning on a TV show in which they normally discuss such matters as the colour of women's tights than she does in Holyrood or on the campaign trail? I mean, why would Ruth Davidson have to look at Gloria Hunniford to work out how to question Ruth Davidson? Nicola Sturgeon. But again, then one I have to say in mitigation here, Loose Women panel was actually quite kind to the First Minister, because they could have put her on the spot with a really difficult question like this one, which they posed in a Twitter poll today, which is, do you kiss your partner every day? I would love to see Nicola Sturgeon ask that question unexpectedly on live TV. So please make it happen, somebody.
I don't know if that makes a big difference. I think the main one that should be asked, of course, is what are you going to do when you don't get another referendum? And why are you even fooling all these people that there's going to be one? Why can't anyone just ask that question? Why does the Emperor not have any clothes on?
Well, you know that question was asked, Mark, on Loose Women. She was asked that question.
And what did she say?
She was asked, if you have another referendum, she said, no, it's when. And they said, no, it's if. No, it's when. It was like that, seriously. And then she eventually answered the question and said, when, because it is when. I have another referendum. If I lose it, yes, I think I would pass on the baton to somebody else. And she made some crack about how she's still young enough to go on and do something else with her life. Oh, you're 52, sweetheart, so I don't leave it all that much time to do something new.
See,
I don't know.
the longer she stays in post, the less opportunity she'll get, I believe. Honestly, it should be
Absolutely
better.
right.
I mean, the quicker she goes, the better. She might actually salvage a career at this.
Yeah, true.
I mean, she's just ruining Scotland, like I said, right into the ground.
You're right.
And, you know, I'll resign if we lose a second referendum.
That's what
That
she
isn't going to
said.
happen. That isn't going to happen.
We'll just resign now then.
Because
not
there's
gonna
not going to be one. Quite right.
Well, I made a tweet saying, well, it's a funny way of saying you'll never go then. You'll never resign. Because she won't. This
Absolutely not.
referendum is not happening, folks.
It's not happening.
It's not happening.
Indeed.
And
You need to
even
be
if
doing
it
it,
does, right, theoretically, right, I've
Yeah.
already done the maths on it. They can't win a second referendum. It must be Indy free. That's the only option they've got. So it's a trilogy they're signing us up to. It really is.
Well, we won
Laughing.
already. We don't need to. We don't need to
Exactly.
relitigate it as well. You know,
Yes.
watch a football match. It's done.
Yeah.
Then you don't go back and say, "Well, you know what? We have to go." Well,
You didn't go back and blame the
I
ref.
suppose play another game, but that's not the best analogy, perhaps. Moving on anyway.
Moving on.
Okay, so I think we can. I think we've no love for Ruth Davidson on
Sorry,
this
Ruth,
show. We've talked about it at length before. I think it does highlight this thing of this idea of the branch office, and I think Labour were in fear of that as well for a long time.
Yeah.
You know, they run their campaigns according to fear of the nationalists. So, you know, Labour are so scared of being called red Tories. That that it causes all kinds of effects, and they're beginning to fight back about that and say, well, we're not Tories, and the Scottish Tories need to fight back and say, well, we are Tories, and we're quite happy we're making these decisions about it. We're not afraid to be Tories. So each party needs to be not afraid to say what it is because some nationalists criticise them. It's
Quite
like,
right.
okay, but turn it back on them. They're the ones that are causing the trouble. And be strong in your own thing. And that's what we've been doing. It's one of the principles of the majority is to say that, we need strong opposition. We need people to stand up and we need to break these nationalist narratives.
Right.
And parties need to stop fearing these people. I had a guy on there just there and he was like, we need to offer them, I mentioned this earlier actually, we need to offer them a second referendum, the chance of a second referendum. And you're like, why? And he says, because if you don't, they'll get stronger. And like, how? If they've got no option, they've got nowhere to go. How are they going to get stronger?
I agree.
Right, and this is the kind of thing. It's like almost like political logic. We need to start, understanding a little bit better. And I'm not saying I understand that better than other people, but I'm saying it's part of a process for us all, as followers of Scottish politics, to see that we've actually been under the spell of these nationalist narratives for such a long time, and they're actually quite easy to break. You don't need to be scared of them.
A lot of great comments coming in here, Mark. Give them nothing. And we should offer them nothing. That should be the election campaign slogan.
Yes.
Give them nothing. Because they don't deserve your vote. They're leading you down the yellow brick road right into...
Yeah, they've got nothing to offer.
Well, to nowhere.
So let's just say that they've got nothing to offer. You've got stuff to offer. On both, and whatever side you want to vote for. Moving on, it's going to be it's a highlight of our week. It is the Zoomer of the week. We'll see who it is. Just a second.
I think I'm first up this week, guys.
I think you are.
Now, my nomination for this week's Zoomer of the week.
Double take.
No, it gets stuck. It normally just plays and then and that's it. But anyway.
Well, anyway, David.
It's such a memorable episode that we're going to introduce it twice. Yeah. So my Zoomer of the week this week is...
That's the wrong one. It's not actually Zoomer. So this is it.
That's the very man.
Right, there we go. That's better. Sorry for that.
So, Zoomer of the week this week. My nomination is SNP member of the Scottish Parliament for Kilmarnock and Irvine Valley, Willie Coffey. Yesterday in Holyrood, this is a great story, guys. Yesterday in Holyrood, Willie was asked as deputy convener of Emotion to give an opening speech to introduce the debate. well, very standard. This was because the motion's convener was not in the chamber at the time. So Willie was asked, okay, would you like to give an opening speech? Willie stood up and said, actually, I've prepared a closing speech, not an opening speech. But undeterred, Willie ploughed on, giving his closing speech, thanking everyone for their contributions to a debate which hadn't taken place. Nothing had been said. So this, have you got the link? Yeah.
We've got footage. We've got footage. It did happen.
In the unexplained absence of the convener, can I call on the Deputy Convener, Willie Coffey, to speak to and move the motion on behalf of the Local Government Housing and Planning Committee for around 8 minutes, Mr Coffey.
This is outrageous.
Thanks very much, Presiding Officer. I thought I was closing the debate, so this is a closing speech, as I'm sure members will say here. I'll move the motion in my name, Presiding Officer, before I forget. So I'm very pleased to be opening this important debate on behalf of the Local Government Housing and Planning Committee. And firstly, of course, to thank the committee members for their contribution during the process, and to our clerking team and Spice for their help and much valued guidance along the way. From my perspective, this debate has been immensely constructive.
He just stops it there pretty much. Anyway.
Presiding Officer just stops it. He just says, no, actually, just stop. Just stop. Don't waste your time. Don't waste your time.
He said there's no reflection on your comments. I feel that without the convener making the opening statement, it would not reflect well on the chamber, said the Deputy Presiding Officer with masterly understatement. So really, I mean, I've said this to people in England and they've all said, tell me that's a joke. I said, sorry guys, that's absolutely for real. That happened yesterday. So it'd be a bit like us, as I said earlier, me coming onto this show and saying, right, what we got this week? And Mark saying, well, thank you everybody for all of your input. And so that's all we got time for this week. Goodbye. As his first line in the show. It might happen one day indeed. So that was it. So sorry, my nomination for Zoomer of the Week is Silly Willie Coffey.
I'll just have a pro tip: is don't look up Willie Coffey on Google. It's it doesn't come out right. It's something.
No, I bet.
All right, coming up, I'm going to be. It's my Zoomer. Right, so I've got a special shout out to Albert Idiots. Albert Idiots. And it's like out of the frying pan into the fire, except the fire isn't actually really on. I don't know. Anyway, this idea that if you actually look at the Alba Party, what's it called, website, and see their manifesto, I suppose it's called a manifesto or policies, you're like, oh, really? What's here? There isn't any here. But anyway, one of the big things they have is this idea that they can have what they call a plebiscite election. And the idea is that the SNP makes a manifesto commitment that if they get a majority of Scottish MPs elected in a general election, then they can declare independence. That's the idea. And that's what people are actually signing up for on on Alba. Here's this guy. I was talking to this guy today. Right. He goes, you're grasping at straws. If Westminster refuse a Section 30, then Nicola Sturgeon has no option but to announce that the next general election becomes a plebiscite. Without it, there's nothing to stop civil unrest. You may not like it, but that's what's coming. And I'm like, outrageous. Well, what's this plebiscite? 300 Jacobite cosplayers and some stray dogs. They come up with these ideas, and basically it's just an illegal and unenforceable unilateral declaration of independence with a little bit of civil unrest thrown in, because they can't get what they want through normal means. They can't get it through a referendum. They can't get it through a fake referendum, because it'll be boycotted and it'll be illegal. So they're going to try and say, right, okay, what we're going to do then is, I've really thought about this. We're going to say if we get a majority at Westminster, we can just declare independence, and it'll work, and everyone agree to that. And you're like, well, wait a minute. First of all, you've got you already have a majority of Scottish MPs in Westminster, and you're like, okay, so why haven't you done it already then? And then you think about, of course, the Westminster thing is you have to. There is some idea that if you do get a majority at Westminster of the entire Westminster Parliament, you get a majority of the 650 seats, then of course, you can do whatever you like because you're the party in
Absolutely.
charge. But
Yeah.
you're not going to get that from some daft idea. Listen, people are signing up for this nonsense. Absolute, utter
So,
nonsense.
I'm going to do the unthinkable now. I'm going to defend Alba. Just a slight. Not Alba the party, the members of the Alba party, right? So why does Alba exist? If we find the answer to this question, which I already know, it's because
mainly because Nicola Sturgeon is not offering a referendum. That's why they're frustrated about that.
They want independence tomorrow. That's it. They'll listen to all the arguments that say economically it's a basket case independence, and they'll say, "Yep, we want it tomorrow." Nicola Sturgeon is too wishy-washy. We want independence now. So that's frustration at the SNP. What do you think now?
Yeah,
I think, right, it's the faction of the SNP voters that aren't fine with the sex surveys in school. The faction of the SNP voters that aren't up for gender bending 4-year-olds. They're not up for that. That's why this faction has. So there's obviously some morals there. So I'm going to come to the defence of some of the people that have joined Alba. I don't agree with their goal, not at all. But there's some decent people in there. We can't just disparage people.
The thing is, you've got people. There are all stripes of nationalists, and that's one of the problems the party has: is how can it hold against this actual coalition? It used to be, of course, that the SNP was basically a Tory party, the Tartan Tories, right? It was and then populated by certain types of people and nutters, cranks, but they were a certain type of middle class voters, I might say, right? And then over the years, Alex Salmond was very clever to attract the Labour vote. Let's call it working class.
The Labour vote is right, yeah.
Okay, so but you can't hold those two together very easily. And then they attracted, a youth vote, and then they attracted an anti-Brexit vote, and then they attracted something else. But you can't hold that bag of stuff together very easily. And at a certain point, it does fracture. And so this is this part is, as Niall says, I think, is people are moving to another form of the SNP, perhaps. But I think we have to look at it in the bigger picture. If the SNP can't even get a referendum, what?
Of course, Alba's never going to get one. We know this.
Not a chance.
But the people in Alba don't, or they'll have a rude awakening. Again, I mean, for me, Alba is the result of the SNP's zany policies and lack of action, or perceived action in the referendum department, which we know they're never going to get, but it's the perceived lack of action.
Now is the time, it says on their website, you can donate. Actually, I've urged you to have a look at their
the wee Alba book.
Their thing is just full of a load of nonsense. It really is. I mean, it's just a bunch of no hopers, really, and it's sad to see that's continuing. And there's some people think, okay, we can do it helps split the vote, and that is perhaps true. But I think if I was, I'm not saying if I think nationalists who are coming out of the SNP have to really out of the SNP, because there isn't going to be a referendum, have to really consider that they're going to have even less of a chance of a referendum with Alba. So where are they going to go? They need to go back to parties that are, conform government and get the Tories out of that sort of objective, which is the real objective, I think. So hopefully you can see that moving on. Moving on, though, we need to go to...
yes, we're getting quite close to the hour, aren't we?
Right now, we're just going to have to run through this fairly fast.
No worries, folks. This is going to be a simple, clear-cut Zoomer, I think. My Zoomer of the Week nomination is Nicola Sturgeon herself, the head of the snake. The head of the snake. Last week on the campaign trail on our Stop Brexit, Stop Boris battle bus, which is just ridiculous, Nicola went to see her wee pals in the barber shop. Obviously, no mask. Oops, sorry me, my mistake. Oh, whoops, sorry. Great choice, Niall says, Alistair Melvin. I mean, I could pick Nicola Sturgeon every single week. Under the Scottish Government coronavirus regulations, coverings are mandatory in hair salons, beauty, nail parlours, tattoo studios, and any other indoor close contact service setting. Okay, so I mean, who's been doing Nicola's hair all this time?
Yep.
You know, I remember during the first couple months of the lockdown, my beard was right down to here. It was wild. I looked like a caveman. Nicola, all prim, proper. She's obviously getting a hairdresser in Homer's. But
Yeah.
how can she possibly call for Boris's resignation as she breaks the exact same rules in the exact
Absolutely.
same situation? It's pure hypocrisy. It's blatant. It's in your face. I mean, I don't know how she gets away with it. You can't have it both ways. You can't have
No.
it both ways.
No, it's a shocker. I mean, I think the whole thing is just, to be honest, on all sides is overblown. Do we really want to be in a situation where you take your mask off for a few seconds, whether it's Boris or not, or you have these parties, and they barely even qualify as parties? Are we even wanting to have that? What kind of society are we when we're so super judgmental on these things? It's just to some extent, it's just for political gain, right? We're just
Of
trying to
course.
make politics out of this stuff, and all the time you're obsessing about that to try and get this little advantage or whatever. And sometimes we're guilty of that as well, I suppose. But it's like we're not focusing on the real issues. Right? You're talking about Partygate,
Absolutely.
you're talking about Sturgeon being in a barber's. It's like, oh,
I know. It wastes precious time.
it really
Precious
is. It's
time.
shocking.
Yeah.
It's really okay. I think
Just as a closing one, why was the investigation done so quickly? It was like the quickest police investigation I've ever seen.
Absolutely
Yeah,
right. I mean,
it was rapid.
Yeah, it's a shocker. Definitely, when it comes to Natalie McGarry, for example, her case has been running for God knows. I mean,
yeah,
since
and
the
Margaret
dinosaurs.
Ferrier as
I don't
well.
know.
Yeah, Margaret Ferrier's not even going to appear in court for another 4 months. She did it 18 months ago, and she admitted doing it. She's still not
Right.
even up in court.
Absolutely
it's
shocking.
Yeah.
Ludicrous.
Right. Okay. So I'll let David decide.
Okay.
Time.
This week, I think it's unfair to go for Willie Coffey because I'm sure he's a well-meaning man. Now I'm going to give it to Nicola Sturgeon for her repeated infractions and
You
for
can see
her
the disappointment in your
rank
face, Mark. Disappointment.
I think it's the right.
Sorry,
I think it's the
Mark,
right choice.
but-
I mean, mine is a bit abstract. I think. I
a
suppose.
bit abstract. So yeah, Nick, congratulations, First Minister. You've won yet again.
Right. Okay. Well, I think it's a good. Niall seems to be on a winning streak with these.
Yes.
That's one. Yes. Yeah.
You can just be doing Nicola Sturgeon every week.
I can paint a great
right.
picture, guys.
Exactly.
Yes.
Right. Okay. Well. Okay. We're coming to the end of the time. I'd like to say hello to the person in charge of the chat, our wonderful and lovely Mary. How are you doing?
Hello, good evening, everyone. Thank you for joining us this evening. I hope you've enjoyed the show. There's been lots of great comments, and I hope you'll join us again next week, Thursday, 7 p.m. Thank you.
Yeah, we've had some really good comments tonight. It's been actually really good. A big thank you to our donors. You can donate at the website to the Majority Podcast itself, and you can also donate to our billboard campaign. Still a little bit of time there. And one thing we don't say is a lot of people in the chat actually say thank you and goodbye and all that at the end. It's really great to see that. Thank you.
Lovely.
We see that, and it makes us.
We really do appreciate it. We really do.
Inside. I'm going to leave you. Oh no, we also thank our distribution partners, UK Union Voice and United Against Separation. Thank you for helping us.
And do you have a thought of the week, Mark?
I do indeed. I actually stole this one from Twitter.
Oh, how dare you?
From a person called Nom de Plume. It's a good thought. Many people think opposing nationalism just requires a bigger opposing flag, when what is required is for the flag actually to be ignored and the real issues focused on. I think that's a common,
that's a
common
great thought of the
vibe
week.
that we have on this show. If you agree with that, then please tune in next week. We are number one show for Anti-Nationalist comment and chat. We love to hear you talking and participating. Thank you very much. Mr. Grant, I can't see your first name properly. Right, it's great, really great. So I'm going to say, we'd like to please invite other people to watch the show. I'd like to say thanks to Niall and David.
Thanking you.
Thank you, guys. Thank you.
And thanks to all the viewers. Thank you very much for your beautiful comments. And I hope you have an amazing week ahead.
Absolutely.
All right, so we'll see you next Thursday, 7 p.m. Thanks for watching. Bye now.